Welcome to another fun sewing tutorial. This is NASA's thread. Thank you for stopping by. For today's tutorial, we'll be learning how to make this stylish, trendy gown with exaggerated hip. I'll also be showing you how to overcome zip bulge when making your clothes. Okay, so if this is what you're interested in, keep watching and let's get right into this. Now, to start off, I have my pattern paper. I the paper isn't folded, okay, take note of that. And I'm gone ahead to mark my starting line. Now from that starting line, I'm going ahead to mark my vertical measurement, my shoulder to the bust point, my shoulder to the underbust, to the waist, to the hip, and then to the full length. Now you can make this dress to be shorter for you if you so choose to. So mine, I had 35 inches by the time I finished making this dress. So note that the paper I have here, I marked 35 inches of length for my gown. That's what I want for the length of my gown. I just marked 35 inches and I went ahead to roll the lines. Now on the second line, I'll take half of my shoulder measurement and then I'll mark it down. Then I'll also take a neck width of 3.5 inches. That's because I want this neck to be open. I want the shoulder area to be small. Now on the point I took my shoulder measurement, I came down by 1 inch and I'm just slanting this to meet my neck width. Okay, now to get your armhole depth, go ahead and measure your round bust, divide that by 6 and then add 1.5 inches. So I'm just trying to get my armhole depth by also taking my shoulder measurement on that the point where my armhole depth point, and then I'm just directing my line this way. This is going to serve as my chest point. So I'm going ahead to just label these lines right now. So while labeling, I noticed that I didn't mark my underbust and I went ahead to mark my underbust measurement and then I made a line at that point. So ensure to not forget for yours, okay? And I labeled it. Now we have this down. Now what I'll do is to get the midpoint of my armhole. I'm trying to get my armhole curve, and then on the chest line I will get quarter of my round bust and I'll go ahead and connect those points together. So you want to come in on the midpoint of your armhole by 1/2 inch. Consider the fact that you're marking your front armhole, okay, and then you go ahead to curve this out. So this is what we have for it. Now the next thing we want to do is to get at that line. To do that, go ahead and take the measurement from your nipple to the other, which is the bust span, divide that by 2 and you mark it down. So for me, I had 3.5 and I'm marking this down to my full length. So from the bust point, I marked 3.5 inches to the full length of my paper, and then I'm going to connect them together in a straight line. So after connecting together, now on the parts going towards the midpoint from the underbust, I will go out by 1/2 inch. So just take from that your midpoint line, go out by 1/2 inch to the full length, just like you did for the other one. You're going to measure that down to the full length where you want your dress to stop, and then you connect it together. Okay, you're going to connect those lines together. I was just trying to arrange my camera properly so you can see, and I'm going ahead to just connect it. So you're taking that measurement from the underbust to the full length. Okay, now for the part going outside, I'm going to use 1.5 inches. Now this measurement depends on your bust size. Okay, so my bust is actually 36 inches, so I'm using 2 inches as total for my dart intake. So if your bust is from 40 inches and above, you want to use 2.5. If your bust is lesser than 34 inches or thereabout, or is lesser than 34, yes, you want to use 1.5 inches. So just take what works for your bust measurement. Now I'm going to connect that to my bust line. So I connected the one from the outside with a curve to the bust point, and then I'm connecting this other point with a straight rule, so you can see what I have there. Now I'm going to take the measurement I have around my armhole. So you're going to take the measurement of the curve. Now, while taking the measurement of the curve, you should place your tape following the curve, not just straight. Okay, it will ensure that you have an accurate measurement. Go ahead and just take the measurement. After doing that, get the midpoint of that measurement. Now we're going to connect that midpoint of our armhole to the bust point using the curved part of our rule. You can see the part of my rule that I'm using for this measurement. Just go ahead and use that to connect it together. You can see we have a nice curve at that. Now from the midpoint of the armhole which we just marked, I'm going down by 1 inch for my armhole dart, and then I'm going to connect it also to the bust point. So we have the dart around the armhole area right now. Now to ensure that there's no shortage while we're joining this later on, you're going to extend the second line by 1 inch, and then you connect that together so that it matches with what you have. Now what I'll go ahead and do is to take my horizontal measurement. So on the chest line, I already marked my bust, quarter of my round bust. I marked the dart intake I have around the armhole at that chest line, and then I'm using a stitching allowance of 2 inches. Now on the waist, I'm going to take quarter of my round waist measurement, the dart intake I have around the waist, and then the stitching allowance of 2 inches. Then on the hip, I'm also going to repeat the same thing. You're going to take quarter of your round hip measurement, the dart intake you have there, which is 2 inches, depending on what you used for yours, and then a stitching allowance of 2 inches. Now I'm going to use my rule to connect these points together. Okay, now for the full length, I'm just going to connect from my hip measurement straight down. Okay, so you take the same thing you have at the hip at the full length. Okay, now to create our exaggerated hip, I'm going to extend this line outwards at the hip area and also at the full length. To create the exaggerated hip, depending on how exaggerated you want yours to be, okay, but for this I'm using 3 inches for mine. I just went out by 3 inches around the hip area. So you can extend yours by 2.5, by 3, by 4. It totally depends on how exaggerated you want it to be. You might have seen in different outfits how some of them look minimal and some of them are extra. So if you want yours to be extra, you just go ahead and add. Okay, but do what will look nice at the end of the day. So I connected that to the waist, and then I'm connecting from the hip to the full length like so. So you can see the exaggeration we have around the hip area like that. That is what we're going to have. Okay, like I said, you can decide to have yours minimal or you can decide to have yours more. So now for the neckline of this, I'm going to come down from my shoulder line by 7 inches, and then I'll make a mark there. That is where I want my neck depth to end. Now from that point, I went in by 1 inch, and I'm going to make a line at that point, and I will connect from that point to meet my shoulder, my neck width, sorry. Now for this neckline, you can use any neck design of your choice, any neck type you want, any neck design you want, you can use. So I just decided to use this because I wanted to try something different, and then I did that. So I'm going ahead to just label my my pattern, the center front and then the side front, and I'm going ahead to cut with my scissors. So while cutting this, I noticed that I'm yet to create a new armhole curve. So I'm just going to use my curve to create a new armhole curve because we'll not be using the other one which we created earlier. Okay, so take note of that. So while cutting this out, you want to take note of the places that you will not be using. So just watch carefully how I'm cutting this out so that you're not confused while you're making yours. So this is what we have for our front pattern. This is what it looks like. So go ahead now to work on the back pattern. So for the back, I've gone ahead to just mark my vertical measurement, and then I marked out a zip allowance of 2 inches just for now. Okay, I'm still going to work on that. Now on the shoulder line, I'm taking my 3.5 inches of neck width, and then my um shoulder, half of my shoulder measurement. I came down by 1 inch. I'm connecting that to that measurement of the neck width. I'm just simply trying to get my armhole depth just like we did in front, and I'm going to connect together. So for this now, I want to note something. I just want to note something. I actually didn't do this while I was making my dress. So for a dress that it's no, you're not going to be adding sleeves, you want to use the same armhole pattern for both the front and the back. So remember, for the front we went in on the midpoint by half inch. So if you're using that for the front, also use that for the back. I hope you got that. So I'm just going ahead to place my dart, but this, in this case, I'm taking it from my bust point to the hip line, and then I'm connecting together in a straight line. Now to mark the dart for this, on the waist area, I'm going to use half of an inch on both sides of the waist. Okay, and then I'm connecting it to the top. That's the bust point. Now for the length of the dart, it's not meant to get to the hip area. Okay, I went on later to correct that. So your that should end 3 inches above your hip point. That's where it should end. So I'm just going ahead to just add my horizontal measurement, add the horizontal measurement, add my stitching allowance. For the back, we only took that intake around the waist, so you're going to add back that intake to it, and then you just add your stitching allowance to that. Then we're going to just connect it together after we have finished making our points. So I'm using my curve rule so that I have this well curved out. Okay, so just like we did in front, you're going to extend from the hip to the full length, and then around the hip area you're going to extend it by 3 inches to create that exaggerated hip. So whatever you're using in front, you have to do the same thing at the back so that it comes out the same, it comes out looking nice. Considering the fact that it is the side of your dress, you're going to be stitching that together. Now for the neck width, the neck depth for the back, we're going to use a neck depth of 1.5 inches, and I will just go in with my curve rule to create a simple C. So for the back, we're not doing anything extra, and I'm extending this into my zip allowance line. Now we want to work on our zip area. I'm going to come in, I'll extend the waist um, point line into the hip, into the zip area, sorry, and then I'll come in by half of an inch from that waist. So I actually came in from the actual measurement I had before. I came in by half of an inch, and I'm connecting it to the top, okay, and then I'm connecting to the base. So we're not working on the zip allowance area yet, okay, so just watch carefully how I'm doing this. Now we're going to mark a zip allowance of 1.5 inches. Half inch is going to be the allowance to turn with our lining, the zip area with the lining. Then 1 inch is going to be the allowance for stitching that our zipper. Okay, I think that works perfectly. You don't need it to be bulky inside. So you're going to just mark that 1.5 inches to the end. So while connecting it, you notice that you have a curve around the waist area, right? So this is what you're supposed to have in order to avoid zipper bulge. We're still going to work on our waist area so that we have the back smoothened out by the time we stitch down our zip. So but for now, I'll just go ahead to just cut this out so that we can work on the zipper area more. So now that we have it down, on the waist area now, to further snatch in the waist area to avoid zipper bulge, you're going to take the measurement from your shoulder to your waist in front, to the shoulder, from your shoulder to your waist in front, and then your shoulder to your waist at the back. Not taking note of the fact that we have the bust, so there's a difference between what we have in front and the back. So for me, The front I had 16 inches for that, shoulder to the waist I had 16 inches, and then shoulder to the back I had 14.5. So you're going to minus what you have at the back from the front. So at the end of the day, I had 1.5 inches extra. So what I'm going to do is that on my waistline, I'm taking 0.75 inches on both sides of the waist. So I'm taking that from the center front of my back. Okay, that's the center back. I'm taking 0.75, which is 1.5 inches divided by 2. So whatever you have for your own measurement, if you have 2 inches, you take 1 inch on one side and 1 inch on the other side, and then you connect it to the other end. So I'm just cutting this out and just leaving a little bit, and then I'm going to place it this way and then use a tape to hold it down. I'm going to use my paper tape to hold this down. So this will enable the zip to sit more flattened around the back area by the time we stitch it down. So while cutting on the fabric, I'm going to show you what to do at the base to make up for this 1.5 inches which we've taken off from this. Because if you use your dress like this, if you use the pattern to cut out exactly this way, the back is going to be very shorter than what you have for the center front. Okay, so I just place this down together with my tape, and this is what I have. Now to cut this out on my fabric for the front, I added 2 inches to the hem, which will serve as my hemming allowance, because I'm going to be turning this over with a lining. Then for the areas I'm going to be stitching together, I'm adding 1/2 inch for my stitching allowance. Okay, this part where you're going to stitch together, that's the part where you took out the dart, you're going to add 1/2 inch to that, and then at the hem you're going to add 2 inches for your hemming allowance. So if you added a hemming allowance while you're cutting out your pattern, you don't need to add again while cutting your fabric, but you have to add the stitching allowance to your piece. So I just took those measurements down, and then I'm going to cut it out. So this is just for the front now. Now for the back, to cut out our back piece, you're going to come down from the center front of your back piece by 1.5 inches. Remember that 1.5 inches we took off from our pattern, and then you connect this to the edge of your side. So from the edge of your side, which is you have no measurement around, and then you come to 1.5 inch at the midpoint. Okay, so I hope you understand what I'm trying to explain. Then after that, you're going to now mark your hemming allowance of 2 inches, which we already added to the front. And I'm just using my rule to ensure that I have this straightened out. After that, go ahead to cut. So you connect 1.5 inches from the center front of your back piece. You connect that to nothing at the side before going ahead to add your hemming allowance of 2 inches, and then you can just cut out the other ends. So this is what I have for the back. I'll go ahead and cut out this on my lining, but for the lining I will ensure that it is 2 inches shorter. Remember, 2 inches is our hemming allowance. So you notice on the dart I actually adjusted my dart just like I said before, so it should end 3 inches above your hip point. Okay, so this is what I have for my lining piece for the back. And also for the front, I've also gone ahead to just cut out the lining piece to be 2 inches shorter 2 inches shorter than what I had. So ensure to mark the wrong side of your piece. Now for this, we'll be using wadding. Okay, we're going to be padding the breast area of our piece. So I'm just placing this down and I'm going to trace it. So you can see how I'm tracing this down, just in case you don't know how to cut out a wadding for your piece. Okay, for your bustiers, you can just use it this way to cut it down. So go ahead and cut also for your center front. Now I've gone ahead to iron my interfacing to my piece. So I ironed to my lining piece for the front, and then I ironed to my main piece of fabric for the front, and then I ironed my wadding to just my main material, that's the Ankara material, that's for the front only. So I'm going to go ahead and stitch this down. I'll just place them the places they should be. Hopefully you know how to stitch this down. Just go ahead and stitch it, but ensure to start from the base. Okay, repeat the same thing also for the lining piece. Then for our back piece, I also iron my interfacing to the main piece of my fabric, as you can see. All right, and also for my lining piece of the back, I only iron from the hip area to the full length for the back. So you can also iron fully for the back, for the your lining piece. Okay, for the back, I didn't have enough of that, so I just iron from the hip area to the full length so that I can help to hold the hip area to give me what I want. Okay, for it to have that firm look. Now to sew the back, we're going to start from the base. You place this right side to right side. You start from the base first and you stitch it down by half of an inch. After that, you adjust it to the top. You stitch the neckline, the zip area, the side, and also the armhole. So for this piece, I'm not adding sleeves to this, so I'm going to be stitching down my armhole. But if you want to attach sleeves to yours, you don't need to stitch your armhole. We're going to be leaving just the shoulder area open for now. So this is what I have for my front piece after I joined, and then I went ahead to iron open my seam. Okay, this is what it looks like after I did that. Now for the front piece, you're going to place the front piece and the lining right side to right side. You're going to stitch it from the base just like you did for the back by half of an inch. You align it to the top, stitch the neckline at the sides and the armhole. Okay, then for the back piece, this is what it looks like after I finished stitching this down and I went ahead to give it a very good press. Okay, so what we want to do for the back right now is to place our dart for the back. So the dart for the back is different from what we had for the front. So now I want to place the dart. So I'm aligning this right side to right side. Just place my piece right side to right side, and I'm going to bring back my pattern. So I've gone ahead to just cut open my dart, and I'm placing this on my fabric so that I can trace this out comfortably. So you're going to trace this out, trace out the opening you have on your pattern, you trace it out on your fabric. This is an easy way for you to just get your dart placement. You do it on one piece and repeat on the other piece. Okay, so ensure that you place this properly. Another thing you need to do is that you take the measurement from the center. So remember, what we have now for the zip is 1 inch after turning the zipper area. So you're going to measure your bust span. For me, it is 3.5 inches. You're going to measure that and ensure that where you're placing your dart aligns with it, because it needs to align for you to get a nice fit. Okay, so I just checked mine, it aligned perfectly, and I'm just going ahead to just trace this out on my fabric. After that, I will repeat on the other side of the fabric and I'll go ahead to stitch it down. So this is what I have for one piece. So this is what it looks like after I finish stitching, and I also ensure to press it properly. So like I said, ensure that they are aligning, they are in the position they should be. And this is what the front piece looks like after I finish stitching it down. So for the front piece, I actually opened about 5 inches from my lining piece. That's for the front. That's so that I'll be able to stitch down the shoulders. Remember, we already closed down the armhole area, so you need a way to confidently stitch down the shoulders. Now to do that, before that, sorry, I'm going to place my piece together, the back piece together, and then I will just take the measurement of where I want my zipper to stop. Then I'm going to stitch the remaining. That's because the zipper isn't getting to the full length. Okay, this is not a blouse, so you're just going to measure where you want your zip to stop, and from the remaining part you're going to stitch by 1 inch to the full length to keep them together. So this is what it looks like after I finish stitching down. Now I want to join the shoulders together. Okay, I'm going to place my piece right side to right side for me to be able to join the shoulders together you're going to place the right side of your front piece to the right side of your back piece. Opening we have on the lining piece of our front, that is where you're going to be passing your hands through so that you can align that. So we're going to pass it through this opening right here, and then we stick it out this way and then put this other one inside. So now you're going to be tucking the back shoulder into the front, and then you're going to pin them down. So you want to ensure that you place this properly and you pin them down carefully. Okay, you want to pin them down properly so that it stays in place. So this is what it's going to look like by the time we stitch it. Okay, so I'm just showing you what it's going to look like later on. You can see it's going to be looking neat. So we're going to take that out because we're yet to stitch it down, and then we're going to repeat the same thing for the other shoulder. So ensure that you're placing this properly. It is not folding inside, it is positioned properly. Okay, so ensure that you place this well, pin it down to stay in place before you go ahead and stitch. So this is what it looks like after I finish stitching it down. You can see how neat and nice that looks. Okay, so now the next thing I'm going to do is to just close this opening I have here. So you can either use a hemming gum to close that if you don't want any stitching line outside, or you stitch it down to give it a permanent close. So I went ahead to stitch it down so that it stays put. Now I'm going to align this properly because I want to fix my zipper. Okay, I'll just go ahead and fix my zipper to this point. So this is what it looks like after I finish. The last thing we're going to do is to stitch down the sides of our dress. Now, to stitch down the sides of your dress, you're going to take the measurement around your bust. Okay, you're going to take the measurement around your bust. Okay, you're going to be dividing your bust measurement by 2. So for me it is 36 by 2 is 18. Then I'm going to take out the excess I have on the side. I'll do the same thing at the waist. Take the waist measurement, my waist measurement divided by 2, and then I'll take out the excess on the sides, on the left and on the right side. Okay, then when you get to the hip, you also take the measurement, but add that 3 inches we added earlier. So for me, my round hip is 42 inches, divided by 2 is 21, plus 3 inches is 24 inches. So what I need around the hip is 24 inches. So I'm going to just take the measurement of the excess I have around the hip, and then I'll take that to the full length and go over to the machine and just stitch it down to just close the sides of my dress. So this is what it looks like. This is the final look of our dress. This is what it turned out to be. So if you enjoyed watching this video, do well to give it a thumbs up. If you're yet to subscribe to the channel, please subscribe. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.